Hi everyone, today we're going to learn about finding the average rate of change on a given interval. So finding average rate of change is really like finding the slope between 2 points. So in order to find the average rate of change, you're going to use a formula. I'm going to abbreviate the words average rate of change with AROC. And the formula looks like this: the f of b minus the f of a all divided by b minus a. Now, really what you need to think about is finding the average rate of change is finding the slope between 2 points on any given graph. So if I was to sketch a picture of, say, a parabola, and I pick 2 points on that parabola, one of those points is a f of a, and one of those points is b f of b. When I connect the line that goes through them and find its slope, I'm finding the average rate of change. This is also considered finding what we call the slope of the secant line. That is a vocab word you will need to know for this unit. So a secant line passes through a graph in 2 different places, an A and a B being those 2 x values, and then you can get the y values by plugging into the function, looking at the graph, all different ways. So let's try an example. So every time we do an example, I'm always going to give you the x values on what you're working on. So you can see that this interval for finding the average rate of change is from -6 to 2. You can think of these as 2 x values. But in order to find the slope, I also need to think about the y values that go with them, or the f of a and the f of b. Now to get those, we'll use the given function. So if I want to know what the y value is at the x value of -6, I substitute it into the function. So you would see something like this: -2 times -6 squared plus 1. I would then continue to do the work. Here I would get -72 plus 1, which would give me -71, making the first coordinate that this is passing through -6, -71. I then have to repeat the process for the x value of 2. I need to find f of 2, which would be -2 times 2 squared plus 1, which would give me the coordinate what? So if I substitute this in, 2 squared is 4, that would be -8 plus 1, which would give me -7, giving me the coordinate 2, -7. To now find the average rate of change, I want to find the slope of these 2 points. You can do that by using the formula like so, writing the f of 2 minus the f of -6 all over 2 minus -6, so 2 plus 6. From here, I can then substitute the y values I found in, so that would be -7 minus -71, so plus 71 over 2 plus 6. Moving forward, we'll just do the arithmetic. This would give me 64 over 8, which would give me an average rate of change of 8 on that interval. And that is the answer to our question. Let's try one more, but this time try it on your own. I'll give you a head start. In order to get started, you first need to find f of -1 and f of 0. After you do that, you can then plug into the AROC formula the values that you have. Take a moment, pause the video, and try these 2 examples. Okay, I hope you paused the video and gave that a try. The first one, when you plugged it in, when you plugged in -1, you should have got 1/4 for the y value. When you plug in 0, you should get 1/3. If you then want to find the average rate of change, we need to do our 2 values subtracted there. So we need to take our 1/3 minus our 1/4 all divided by 0 plus 1. Now, conveniently, the denominator will go to 1, so I don't have to worry about it. But in order to combine those 2 other things, I do need to make common denominators. So that'll be 4/12 minus 3/12, which will give me an average rate of change of 1/12. And that will be your answer to that question. Great. So that's how you do it when you're given a function. But what if you're given a graph or a picture? Keep going. So this actually does get a little bit easier for you. In order to find the average rate of change, we just need 2 coordinate points. But remember, what I give you are just x values. So I do need to find the corresponding y values that go with each of the given x values. To find them, you just refer to the picture. When I go to -3, you can see there's a dot and the y value is 2. When I go to -2, I find the dot and the y value is 4. To find the slope between them, I can then use the formula. I can then do 4 minus 2 divided by -2 plus 3, do a little plugging in, and I'll get 2 as an answer. Now, the other quick way to do it is literally to count the slope. I go up 2 and over 1, which would give me a slope of 2, which is the answer to the average rate of change. So do the same thing for letter B. -2 what? 0 what? So again, at -2, the graph is at 4. At 0, the graph is at -4. If you prefer the formula, you can then do -4 minus 4 over 0 plus 2, giving you an average rate of change of -4. Again, you could just count the slope and work it out from there as well. Having a picture should make your life easier rather than more difficult. So, as you move forward, there might be some word problems occurring as well. So in question 4, you see that the average rate at which the population of fruit flies grew in a controlled experiment, right, between 2 different days. These 2 days are considered the x values, and you can see the given y values are stated from the graph. So to find the average rate of change, all I have to do is go directly to that formula. So I'm doing the f of 45 minus the f of 23, all divided by 45 minus 23. Again, you don't have to always show all this work, but sometimes it helps for some of you to see it. So I'm plugging in the 2 y values, 340 and 150, and beginning my subtraction on the denominator. Then I'm going to do some division and some subtraction. This becomes what? 190 over 22, which will simplify to 95 over 11. I would prefer you leave your answer as a fraction as to a decimal. And then when there's a word problem, I always like to add words. So this is flies per year. So I would write that as flies per year. And this would be the answer to my question. Okay. As you continue on, you can try one more word problem. Let's look at it together just so you can feel confident. So this one says that a pebble is dropped from a 288-foot cliff. Pebble takes 3 seconds to hit the ground. The equation that models it is given, okay, where h is the height and t is the seconds. They want the average velocity, which is how it's traveling speed-wise, in feet per second of the pebble for the first 3 seconds it takes for the pebble to hit the ground. Now, for many students, they think, well, Ms. Rocco, you only gifted me one x value, this 3. But if I haven't started yet, the first x value would be 0. So we need to consider that the interval that they want me to solve this problem on is 0 to 3, which means I have to find 2 different y values, the h of 0 and the h of 3. Now, h of 0 is 288. You can see that by plugging in 0 for t. But for the other one, maybe I need to do a little more work. So 288 minus 32 times 2 squared, which will actually give me an h of 3, which is 0, which makes sense because that's when it's hitting the ground and the height is 0. After you get there, finding actual AROC is the easy part. Remember, it's just slope. You can say f of b minus f of a over b minus a, or you could just say y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So for us, 0 minus 288 over 3 minus 0. Therefore, making the average rate of change negative 288 over 3. So then our average velocity for this question, right, would equal negative 96, and then using the word in the context of the problem, this would be feet per second. And that's going to be the answer to this problem. So to sum it all up, finding average rate of change is just finding slope. In order to find slope, you have to have 2 points. I will always gift you 2 x values, and you will always find 2 y values so that you can then plug into the formula and find the answer. If it's a word problem, don't forget to include your units. So for the rest of class, I would like you to complete the practice problems on this worksheet, check your work with the key posted, and then there is a homework worksheet that needs to be submitted as well. This worksheet should be submitted in full by the end of the period, so make sure you hit the submit button on your notes once you finish these practice problems. The answers are posted in the keys so you can check them, but there will be no work there. You do not need to submit anything into quizzes or anything like that, so just make sure that you submit your answers on Schoology. Have a great day. Bye.